Well, it's over. It's actually been over for a couple of days, but it's over. The conference season is finished, and we have reached the NCAA tournament. You know, I've got to say, this conference season this is my second go around and like watching every single volleyball game, that I possibly can, whether it's, sailing somewhere or, having Big Ten Plus, because that's nice. Thank you for giving that for cheap. Thanks, guys. And so yeah, we're here talk about the other 20 games that happened. So to recap, we won game. We won 10 games in non-con play. Beat the ever-living crap out of Stanford, and Pittsburgh had to reverse sweep Kentucky, who eventually went on to win the SEC championship. I did okay against Wright State in California out of some locker room incidents against Utah, and Grand Canyon as well. Kind of struggled in both of them. I almost lost to Creighton because Creighton's apparently not good at volleyball, but still own them. And then beat Arizona. Was Arizona that impressive? I don't know. But yeah. So now we start with good old Michigan. All right, Michigan is somewhat of a tough opponent. I need to do this real quick. Sorry, they weren't ranked, but they won a good amount of their games, so that's like something, I guess. But of course, we sweep them. The first set was pretty shaky, and then the other two sets were pretty dominant. This is a theme that comes with the rest of the games. But then next we have Maryland. Not really much different, except this one. The second set was the god-awful one. Yes, 27-25. I barely remember this. But, yeah, it was the one set in which they actually played pretty hard. And, I mean, if they played this one, maybe they could have gotten the victory. But the match stats, we won it. But it doesn't matter, because next we have Penn State on the road. Now, we knew at the time Penn State was pretty fraudulent. I mean, one of their players left because of health reasons. Hopefully you're okay. And then a bunch of other players were just not doing great, not doing as great. And they still somehow finished the season ranked. We'll get to that in a bit. But they were already, not so great. They were ranked 16th. But it was on Fox, and it was at Penn State. So, bright lights shone upon the volleyball world. Just something. It was not close. 25-6 in the first set. The previous ones where I said that was a trend, it's not a trend when we play Penn State. It's clear that they wanted to kill them. Especially after last year. They want to kill them. So we killed them. 25-6, 25-15, 25-13. And yeah, it really was that dominant. Jesus Christ. It's about the hitting percentage of our best player for the entire team. 8 errors. I mean, they had like 12 errors in the final set, but jeez. Yeah. You wouldn't think that we'd have had to put on our backups in the third set, but goddamn, we did. So, not bad. We get them again, as well as Michigan. I just remembered. And Michigan State twice. I don't know why we get 3, teams there in the middle instead of, Iowa. I would rather have that, but Iowa wouldn't want that. So, But next we have Rutgers at Rutgers, but hey, please. And yeah, it wasn't that close. But Rutgers, all 3 sets, they kept it roughly the same baseline. You know what? That's about as much as you can ask from them. In fact, I think they actually horrifically underperformed in this one. If you don't count the fact that we were hitting 500. We actually peaked in the third set for once. Good job! I am so proud of you for peaking in the third set against it. At least they have 10 wins on the year, rather than certain other teams. Then we have going back home to face Washington. Now, this was obviously a warm-up before the next team because Washington was under 500 at the time. Actually, at 500. But that second set was a bit... That second set and third set was pretty iffy. It didn't feel like they were absolutely dominating in that. Which, it doesn't really give any confidence when you have to go up against Purdue in 2 days. Obviously this is the number one team, but, in the back of my mind, I'm like, somehow this team is going to, lose one of these games, right? I mean, it's the Big Ten. The Big Ten is the volleyball conference. You would think that they would do, better. None of them were really performing against the other ones. But can we stop with this? But then we get to Purdue, and, I mean, it was close on the first one, but then we kind of just yeeted them the rest of the way. That was the closest one so far to being outperformed. So that's pretty terrible. that's pretty terrible. Thank goodness we was able to pull through in the end and not screw up. But hey, it was a ranked team. That's pretty good. Then we go face Michigan State, who may or may not have been a ranked team. Probably, no, they weren't. But, they had a pretty good record. And it didn't work. Yeah. The third set, a bit fishy. A little bit fishy there, especially since we dropped off from a 609 to 281. They can never play a full 3 sets sometimes, but... Eventually they will. But then we get Michigan again. We get the second Michigan game. I forgot we played two road Michigan games in the same week. But this one was, of course, not overly a challenge. I mean, 25-18 in the first set, 25-13, 25-18. That's, but it doesn't help when the opponent finishes that, and this is by far the most consistent conference performance outside of Penn State. So, good job. Maybe they're turning a corner, especially since they got yet another unranked team in Northwestern. This was by far, more consistency. Maybe not in the score sheet, but definitely the definitely consistent here, but not like a peak consistency like 400, but 300 is good. It's good enough anyway. Ace is pretty good. 10 blocks to 1. Love it. And then we get Michigan State again. It's weird that we play them in 2 straight weekends, but sorry Michigan State, but it did not. It did not go well for them the second go around. But this time they were more competitive in the third set. Amazing work. Good job. It's oof. They definitely put up a better performance in the third, but for the most part, we keep putting in the backups for the third. Give them experience for when we have to actually play real opponents. Speaking of real opponents, Halloween at Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin, obviously, pretty good, ranked 11. Certainly better than, Penn State or Purdue. Certainly they are better than them. So, it should be a little bit tough. I mean, it kind of was. That first set was a bit shaky, especially since, at Wisconsin, gotta rile up the crowd, whatnot. But then it just fell apart for them. Second set, meh. Third set, ooh. Third set, we finally turned it on to the third set. Yay! That's good. Second set was but it's funny because their second set was worse than the third set, but we just turned it on the third because kill Wisconsin. It's at this point you reach the point where we actually should be facing somewhat hard teams. We still got Minnesota, but we have Oregon next. Yeah. Oregon was very tough. I don't know what they were, consuming the day before. It was the day before, but they were Ooh, they were a little feisty. They were for a 13-9, 4-8 outfit. They were very feisty. 25-21, 25-20, and then just a capitulation in the third. That first set was not the greatest, especially in the error department, but that was like we finally shut them down in the third, but that was close, guys. You know, we're getting to the fatigue point of the season, I get, but you know, it's a little rough out there. A little rough there, especially after demolishing, basically, well, in terms of Nebraska versus Wisconsin, demolishing Wisconsin. We have Illinois next. Illinois probably is a little tougher. No, they weren't on paper tough, and they weren't actually tough. 7-14. It's what happens when most of your points are off kills and have 0 errors. Yeah, we had nothing to worry about. Illinois was not that great, and that's basically a theme for most of these opponents. Yeah, so whatever. We killed them, and they are dead. The average is 500 on the percentage. Not bad. Finally hit that. The opponent to 0 aces. That's good. That's great. But now we have Minnesota. At Minnesota. Now, surely this is where we drop this set. It's on Peacock, which I didn't even know Peacock had volleyball matches for Big Ten. So, news to me. But now I have that, no. The first set, I was like, okay, they're just going to run away with this. But then the second and third, they definitely got a little shaky there, especially when they started to horrifically underperform. Ooh, yeah, that third set was a bit yikes for that, but you know, whatever, shit happens. It's 14-0 anyway. Like, you do realize that it's November. This season is almost over, and yet again, we have not given up a single set. And I hear it every single game. I'm like, okay, we're going to give it up to some stupid team, not even like a ranked team on our schedule, because we have like 3 of those. Not to a ranked team in our final 6 games, but we're going to give it up to some stupid team because they play down to competition. And I was proven right with this god-awful game. We lost the set. This is the first set. And we didn't lose it to the ranked USC we had on a Sunday. We lost it to UCLA. Now, UCLA, I think, was ranked at the start of the season. Historic powerhouse of a program. But this year they are not good. Not good. They were so not good that they didn't even get votes for getting a set on us. Remember, people get votes when they, do pretty well, even if we sweep them. All right? That's how bad this team was. And, we started out first set pretty good, but then the second set was, ooh, and then UCLA just rode the momentum and killed us. I mean, just look, dude. Look, that set was so goddamn close. Like, what the fuck happened here? It just felt like they kept erroring, just kept error after error after error. Just kept, it just felt like they were just not it. And, especially at UCLA, you cannot do that. I don't know if we were, just traveling there the day of, or if we got too fucking tired because this match was at 9 p.m. I don't know why this match was at 9 p.m. But, you cannot play like this and expect to win, alright? You cannot play like this and expect to win. And you're lucky that UCLA was dog water, so they lost the final set 25-15. Alright? This is basically the Utah game 2.0, except the Utah one, we lost the first or second set. But, just never let this happen again. Especially since you got ranked USC next. So I figured, okay, this is going to be way closer. I mean, look at that attendance. USC is going to have better ones. Surely, no, they didn't take a set. In fact, they looked worse. I just want to understand, like, how could you not pull this off against UCLA? Come on. It just made me question everything. Like, wow, why? And again, the choices for network on this one, but like, what are you doing? Why'd you suck so much against UCLA and then just flat out kill them in the first two sets? The third set, nobody talks about that. That just shit happens. But like, it's not even like USC had like 3 terrible sets. I mean, that the numbers look bad, but most teams have at least one in the 0.0 range. So I don't know, but we got our historic rival next. Not our historic, but our Big Ten rival next. Ayahuasca. Now Ayahuasca is not that great, and it definitely didn't necessarily show. I mean, they finally went under 500, but playing very down to competition with this one, despite the fact that you were hitting 500 and they were hitting 162, 25-21. If we were playing at 400, we would have lost this set. Like, come on. And even when we finally played terribly, they just played much worse. Jesus, 10 errors to 6 kills. Ooh. It just was, it's just, this was at home, by the way. This was at home on FS1, by the way. But then our next game away at ranked Indiana, it's on Big Ten Plus. Again, I don't understand the choices for, TV viewership, but whatever. We get a ranked Indiana. Surely, no. They were close. They were somewhat close. But when you're hitting exactly 0.0, that's not great. That's not great. And finally get some good consistency here. You'll love to see it. Yeah. But we're into the final weekend. We get Penn State and Ohio State. Ohio State's the layup. Penn State's the more confusing team because they're still ranked. I don't know how they're still ranked, but they're still ranked. And then there's Ohio State. Whatever. But let's see. So it's Penn State, big time at home. We're going to black out the Bob, great. Kill them. Yeah, Penn State's just not it this year. I don't know how they got into the tournament with such an abysmal performances. But apparently they did enough to get 11-8, and somehow that's good enough to make the tournament. Whoa, that's fine. We kill them. That's cool. They hit negative 190 in the second set. Even the backups just killed them. It's just great. And then we get the layup of Ohio State. And they put up a significantly harder fight than Penn State. Sure. Right. Yeah. But, hey. It's perfection. 30-0. 20-0. There's not been many Big Ten perfect seasons. So apparently this is one of them. Is it the most dominant? Probably not. Penn State had a couple of years where they didn't lose a single set. Like the entire season until we played them. But it certainly is one of them. Would I say it's the best that we've had? I mean, in terms of sets? Yeah, it would be a pretty good one. It would be pretty good, but the performances were, I mean, they were, like, good, obviously, but, like, you would expect it to be slightly more dominant. But they did it, and that's all you can ask. Now you have to go win the national championship with these type of, expectations. You have to go win the national championship. That kind of sucks. I know. But unfortunately, that's just the case. And so obviously, she wins the coach of the year. Obviously, I mean, she went perfect in her first year. That's something that Cook did, I guess. But I feel like this is slightly more impressive considering Big 8 versus Big 10 is a bit different. But hey, whatever. That's cool. We did it. She did it. Woo. Got it. And now we get to the tournament. And for whatever reason, our bracket has 0 Big Ten teams. It's not like they don't exist. I mean, Michigan and Purdue and Minnesota are all in the same goddamn bracket. Creighton is in a different one. UCLA, those, they're there. We got none of them. But we get LIU as our first one. Now. From my understanding of seeding logic, the team that is the number 1 overall team should usually get the team that is by far the worst of all the AQs. And I deduce that to be Florida A&M. Florida A&M barely even had an above 500 conference record. And in fact, had an under 500 overall record. I don't even know what their schedule was. They could have been playing, lower division schools during that. I don't know about that, but they could have. Here they are, playing Texas. Instead, we get an LIU team that actually, has some hands. Played pretty well in the NEC, won their tournament. I'm pretty sure they have a tournament. And Pittsburgh gets UMBC and Kentucky gets Wofford? Who gets the MEAC team? Arizona State? How the hell does Wofford be a 16 seed? That just doesn't make sense in my eyes. And you think, travel, whatever, but LIU stands for Long Island University. Long Island University. That seems to be New York, also NEC. But sure, I guess we get, Pittsburgh, UMBC, that's actually pretty close. Texas, Kentucky, Wofford, that's pretty close. But, Texas, Florida. We had Florida A&M last year. They have no problem giving us Florida A&M. Is that the reason why we couldn't get them? Because we played them last year? Bitch, I feel like I've seen the same 7v10 matchup before in the basketball tournament. I don't think there's a problem, but whatever. You played the team, and then we get either San Diego, okay, a WCC school being a seeded team. That's somewhat, that's probably not surprising considering West Coast, volleyball, whatever. But being the seeded team over K-State, okay, I see you. So either get them or, San Diego or K-State. That's cool. We didn't play any of these teams. No, we didn't. But and then in the 4v5, Kansas versus Miami. Miami, Nebraska. That'd be a good rematch in football. Nebraska, Kansas. Big 12, all that stuff. High Point, Tulsa. Good luck. And then Texas A&M is also in our bracket, but they have to go up against either, TCU, Campbell, SFA, or, Louisville. Yes, they put Louisville in our... they put Louisville in our bracket. I know, shocking, considering that, the coach that we had, previously, just so happened to formerly be the Louisville head coach. I should say Louisville. Yeah. Oh boy. Shocking. Also, that Utah team that we gave up a set to. Right down at 11. Oof. They were ranked at the time. Where's Grand Canyon? Where the fuck is Grand Canyon on here? Because I know they have to. Surely we only face great teams. Where's Grand Canyon? I don't know. Grand Canyon is not in here. Wait, where's do they go by GCU in this? I mean, I guess Long Island University, nobody uses that. Oh, okay. What was it? Cal? I'd be surprised to see Cal in here. Whatever. Anyway. Wright State? Wait, no, they're in there, right? Surely. Where's Wright? Whatever. I don't really care. I was just trying to see what the hell is in here, but yeah, definitely some teams. Definitely some teams in our bracket. We'll see how that plays out. It'd be very surprising if we see anyone except for Louisville in the Elite Eight if we get there. The San Diego K-State game is very interesting. I will be watching that. Also just because I have all the services for this. Thank goodness they decided to put our games on ESPN Plus instead of like ESPN2 or something because I don't need that in my life. But yeah. Number 1 overall. You'll love to see it. But now we head to the playoffs. Head to the championship. Will we see ourselves in Kansas City? Yeah, better hope so. And if we don't, oof. Now, will I be going to the KC matches? Probably not. But we'll see. December 18th, December 21st. Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, I think that'll be it for me. I just figured I'd do this since I did a non-con season recap. And yeah, I will see you guys. Probably for at least the recaps of the first rounds. Yeah. First round recaps or whenever Donovan's gone. All right. See ya.